West of What is a round-table conversation inspired by Mother Earth's call for more landwork ceremonies to happen. This is a podcast where spirituality lands into politics, history, culture, and more, because land is where we all meet. We want to know how we can come into greater connection with the land and each other, and how we can all move forward with integrity. We believe the answers and solutions will come from many voices, from the truths that happen inside of our togetherness. Hello and welcome to West of What, and I am so deliciously excited and delighted to say that Chantelle Raven is with us. She is the founder of Embodied Awakening Academy and runs workshops, retreats, and practitioner trainings worldwide. And I have had the absolute honor and privilege of being at one of her events. And I have to say that of all of the Tantra events I've been to, I haven't ever been in a space that is true Tantra other than hers. And so I am so excited to see where this conversation goes. And I know that it's going to be really, really special. And so to set intention, may this conversation mean that you feel more of everything, especially the good stuff. Thank you so much for coming on West of What.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that beautiful introduction. Good to be in your energy and your field again. Really enjoyed meeting you and having you in the space.
It was amazing. You know, because I had a spontaneous tantric awakening that happened with a partner. And so I then was looking for Tantra and just was coming across so many awful so many things that were not the awakening that I had. And your workshop in Bali was the first one that I was like, no, this is the energy that I experienced in my awakening. And I think it's because it's done with love. But I'd love to hear why you think it is.
Why do I think it is? I guess, yeah, it's how much you can empty out and channel love through is definitely part of it. I also feel like I'm nearly 50 and have a level of mastery and skill and learning in a lot of different fields and modalities that I synthesize and incorporate into Tantra. I find that a lot of facilitation these days and coaches are jumping on the wagon very quickly and haven't actually taken the time to really devote to the practice, devote to what needs to be learned, embody it, integrate it, feel the uniqueness of how that then wants to be channeled through everyone's unique soul. So there's so many different moving parts when it's like, why is this so authentic? But I would say if I could capture the essence of it, it's a combination of embodying the work and being devoted to it 24/7, and the mastery that's been gained from a lot of experience and a lot of dedicated study. I haven't fucked around, let's put it that way.
What does fucking around mean on the modern day Tantra scene?
I'll go to this workshop and then I'll go to that and I'll pick up a few things and then I'll call myself a Tantra teacher. Or I'm going to capitalize on the fact that sexuality sells and put on events around sexuality and call it Tantra. I mean, sexuality is beautiful and it's an incredible gateway into life force, into healing, into the activation of, full body connection to another human, to spirit, to the oneness state. And it's like 10% of what Tantra is. And how we do anything is how we do everything. So just like the core of all spirituality is meditation, and how deeply present we can actually be with something that is greater than the mind. Just like that is the current that and the thread that weaves a lot of spiritual teachings, so too is that the case with Tantra. So any Tantra that doesn't teach meditation isn't it. Any Tantra that doesn't actually support people's capacity to stay with what's arising in them and not run or fight isn't it. Any Tantra that doesn't actually equip people with how to handle life from a center of being that's not dependent on external circumstances isn't it.
Very wisely said. Thank you. And it's interesting because I actually would say it's less than 10% the sexual tantra. My guides said to me very early on in my awakening, they were like, sexual tantra is one chapter in one book in a whole library of books about what tantra is. Tantra is the laws of sovereignty and oneness. And it's the laws of how the universe creates itself. And so sexual tantra is at like tiny, tiny percent, according to what spirit says to me.
Yeah, for sure. And really, it's like, because Tantra doesn't separate anything from the human experience and everything is divine and part of that overarching oneness, can you even put it at a percentage? It's just like Tantra is life. Sexuality is part of life. So let's explore sexuality as well as everything else. And for some people, maybe sexuality, it is a bigger piece because there's a lot of tension and conflict around that for a lot of people in relationships. And some people, some clients I see, maybe that's 80% of what I'm working with them on is actually freeing themselves from the guilt and shame they have sexually so that they can have much more fulfilling relationships. But then someone else, it might be no percent, someone else, it might be 50. See, so there's also, when you're talking individual work, it's different for everyone.
And why do you think there's such a crisis of shame?
Well, because it's either religion or pornography teaching people. They're the two main avenues of education, and religion overtly fills people with shame around sexuality, and pornography, I feel, covertly and overtly, because often it's like porn's done in secret. There's no sacredness to it. It's all about, cum flying everywhere and women being ready to go straight away and perfect bodies and perfect genitals. It's a load of fucking shit. That creates shame for people. What if I don't have a big dick? What if I'm not ejaculating as a woman? Like, what if I'm not getting turned on quickly? It's like pornography, 5 minutes and not even, and then the woman's being penetrated. Like, probably 5 minutes was generous, maybe 1 minute. And so then women are feeling ashamed for not having that level of openness when actually that's completely unnatural for how a woman's body is wired.
Yeah, I think that's why the sexual tantra is probably overrepresented in today's society. On paper, it's probably not as big percentage-wise in the whole scheme of tantra, but in today's society right now, sexual energy is just being abused everywhere, and it is very, very bad. So I can definitely see how the sexual side to tantra is more or less the gateway. I think people realizing that and harnessing and conserving their sexual energy, they're seeing a huge benefit to that. So I can definitely see how in this day and age, with the epidemic of pornography and women thinking they're empowered because they're going on OnlyFans and things like that, and then that distorting everyone's perception of what sex is supposed to be, the way that you described it. Unfortunately, pornography is how everyone is learning in today's society. So everyone is going about it the wrong way, and they're slowly unlearning. And if you go back 100 years, 1,000 years, the amount of stimulation a human being would have got sexually over their whole lifespan has now been compressed into like almost 1 month in today's society, because if you've got pornography on your phone, it's on social media, everywhere you look, everything is sexualized. So I can see how that sexual side is probably overrepresented in today's society, and I can see why that probably is a gateway for some people. But as long as they learn that there's more to it than that, I guess that's the most important thing.
Well, the thing is, if you actually want to harness erotic power and erotic innocence and have tantric sex, if you're just focusing on the sexual, you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
because most 95% of people are running on agenda and in their heads and constantly focused on some kind of outcome or result. So that comes out sexually. Like even let's take pornography out of it. It's just a fucked up world we live in. Like most people are not even actually here and able to just be in stillness and present with themselves and present with life and actually receiving life, much less when they get into the bedroom, being able to be in their body. So really to enjoy sex, to be sexually empowered, to merge with another, we need to have the capacity to be here now. And the over focus on coming and on ejaculation and on performance and on if I touch her like this and this and this, that's going to yield a good result if I do this to him. You know, all of this is just a representation of how people live life. So it's a much bigger question of, you know, if you're getting into Tantra, if someone's getting into Tantra, I think the soul is what it's actually longing for, is to do life differently, including sexuality, including relationships. I mean, you know, communication is a huge part of it. People don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to have conflicting perspectives without it turning into a fight. It's like, you know, just this constant battle. So if you can't get communication right, there's going to be no safety sexually. So it's like sexuality's here, and then we have the individuation process, we have meditation, we have communication, we have capacity to actually be present and receive life and feel full-bodied experiences. So they're all interwoven. It's one piece of a puzzle that is not separate to anything else.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a really big breakdown with communication in relationships in today's society. And unfortunately, algorithms are getting so good on social media that when people have an issue or a problem, it might reinforce their opinion, and it's almost dividing men and women instead of coming together and communicating and talking through it. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's also a point that a lot of people are their sexual energy is in their shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So they only
Mm-hmm.
know how to access their sexual energy through their shadow, because they're so not used to having their life force energy in their body. And if
Mm-hmm.
anything, I think the beginning of a tantra for me was learning to have my life force energy back in my body, because then you have to feel everything. And you know, our society's really built on human beings not having their life force energy in their body, because that's the only way you can be out of alignment. When your life force energy is in your body, you can't do what's wrong for you, because your life force energy is going to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I feel like we have a kind of crisis of life force energy going on in our society at the moment, that in many ways is why people are having to go to quite shadowy porn, because they don't have any other processes through which to go and find their life force energy.
Well, it's also where's the education on sexuality? There's also an innocence to it where it's like, you know, curiosity, I want to explore this. And what you're talking about with life force is really all of the distraction and all of the quick and easy, everything's on our phone. Most people are just, instead of like being in the feeling and, you know, maybe following their body and following what the body needs, they're just going on their phone and numbing themselves. And other addictions, it's like the inability to be present and to deeply listen. So you're right. It's like, you know, when we're connected to life force energy, it's totally different. We're feeling ourselves, and there's an innate wisdom in the body. But we have to learn that, because what we're learned to do is sit down, listen to a teacher, be penetrated at our consciousness with someone else's ideas and thoughts, not really think for ourselves, not really follow our bodies. That's the majority of our life. It's all geared towards what grade we get. So we've been trained to lead from our heads, from our minds. And then that just increasingly gets worse over time as technology takes over more and more. So the places that I like to take people is really connected to what if you just stopped planning for the future, whether it's the future of the next 5 minutes and your partner coming, the future of getting something that you want from your partner to either save you or, like control them. It's like all of this future wiring and trying to control outcomes and focus on the external is constantly being reinforced by everything that's popular these days.
And trying to validate the connection. I mean, one thing I find is that like this focused on orgasming is like, it's not good unless you orgasm is kind of what we're told.
Yeah.
It's not successful sex unless you have been made to come.
And there's even just thinking that coming is one thing. It's there can be orgasmic energy running for a few hours, for half an hour, for 20 minutes, whatever. There's the isolated explosive orgasm, and then there's just the orgasmic energy that's moving through our bodies and the ecstasy of being merged with someone and all of the different pulses of turn on that happens in that space. So, it's a shame, really, because there's all this pressure for the orgasm. And then there's so much pleasure being missed in between. And in that chase, you can't really feel like, I remember before Tantra, I would like tense up my body, go for the orgasm, know exactly where to place myself so that my clit was rubbing in the right place. And, I felt great to have that 2-second release, but wasn't really in the moment and enjoying the connection. And now I'm not focused on one particular orgasm. Orgasmic energy is running, and sometimes there's isolated moments in time that are way more peak and way more intense, but it's all just part of the journey. And again, that's not how most people live their life, in just surrender, moment to moment, allowing what's happening. And in that space, that's where all the magic happens. It's not like in the known reality of what's going to happen and when, and striving for it and tensing up until we get it. It's actually just relaxing into it. And that sounds easy. And I find that what is most simple is most profound. But actually, no, we're not taught to do that. And not many people can actually just surrender to life. It's like life has it. The wind, the air, the earth, and fire, and ether, and the whole fucking cosmos is working, right? Somehow. And then us minuscule humans who are here for 80 to 90 to 100 years, if you're lucky, over the time span of billions of years, think we're so fucking important and we can control reality and that we know better than the universe or spirit. It's like, actually, if you just allow life to take you and you surrender to life, it will reveal the answers. And I'm not one of those spiritual teachers who's like, just trust and allow, and you don't have to do anything, and like some poor hippie on someone's couch going, I'm just going with the flow, man. And in the meantime, being a child in an adult body. I do feel like being present and taking aligned action with that is possible and is what I'm talking about here. And I've achieved a lot in my life, and I've done it from the place of striving and outcomes and achievement, pre-Tantra. And now I've done it from ease and pleasure and grace and attuning to myself and honoring my alignment. And actually that brought more success, because the sense of urgency, the focus on the future creates tension, all of these outcomes. But if we're here and we're trusting life, inspired action comes from that place, and we can actually be focused in a grounded way and take one step at a time, which actually creates more success. So you can definitely be successful running on adrenaline and always focused on the future and planning and strategizing and trying to control reality. But is that the ultimate happiness? Absolutely not. Do most people succeed that way? Absolutely not. And there is an alternative where you can succeed. And what I mean by that is actually feel happy in your life, in your job, in your relationship, fulfilled sexually. The other scenario is fucking surrender, like be here, and everyone says it, be here now. And what does that actually mean? And the issue is that most people don't know how to be here now. They don't even know how to breathe. They don't even know how to focus their attention on something beyond the identity of the mind. And this is the real issue, that people think they are their thoughts. And if you just think you are this, you're fucked. Like, what does the mind think about? Past and the future. What's he thinking? What's she doing? This and that. And then there's an all-abiding eternal spirit that dwells within this human experience, this human temple, that is witnessing that, and that is witnessing everything. And that's the non-dual, more Vedanta teachings. And then when we combine embodiment with that, it's not this witness that's up here. It's a witness that is part of the soul and the fire that is at our core, which is beyond the mentalization of anything, but also able to utilize the mind as a servant to execute what's deeply here, and I might be feeling and experiencing something and feeling a lot of sadness around it, and then be like, what does that need? Oh, okay, I just need to go to the beach and have a swim. So maybe my mind is then a servant to the felt experience and doing what it needs to do to get the keys, get in the car, or go for a walk and get to the beach and maybe cancel an appointment or something. So it's usually the other way around. The mind is deciding what the body needs to do. But how about if the body is deciding what the mind needs to do? That's much more empowering. And the synchronicities that happen within that are ridiculous. Like what I've experienced in my life since I've been moving through it more in that way is wild. And
Can you tell us? Can you tell us something?
Okay, so for instance, I got back from this big holiday in Portugal and landed the news, oh, you have to be out of your house, which we thought we had for another year at the end of the month. And, lots of fear hit. It's Christmas time. We just made the house so homely, bought new furniture once we knew we had another year. So, lots of shaking and adrenaline release. And then just feeling into what's the opportunity here? Who knows? Let's see. And then my son's father said, I'd love Caleb, my son, to live with me. That was a whole conundrum because he didn't want to. And then we decided that maybe there would just be a few months where Caleb could live with his dad while we look for the perfect place, rather than rentals are really hard at the moment, rather than settling for a shithole. So that was a conundrum that took a while, but Caleb came to it himself. All right, I'll live with Dad for a few months and then, until you guys find somewhere. And then I'm out, and then I'm like, okay, I surrender. Let's just see what happens. If we find somewhere, we find somewhere. Otherwise, we have his dad as an option. And somehow in me, my body, I was just like feeling a few months just in the camper van with my partner. I haven't not lived with a child for the last 22 years. I'm like, it would be great just to have a few months. And that is my ideal situation, but I'm trusting. Anyway, I have lunch booked with a friend who I literally haven't seen in like 3 or 4 years. And she just moved out of a rental that she said they do 6 months on, 6 months off. And it's available literally 3 months after we have to move in here, which was Caleb's, he's like, I don't want to be with Dad for longer than 3 months. It's available in 3 months. It is so beautiful. It's like everything. We got clear on what we wanted. We wanted more nature at the next place because we got a wicked place by the beach, but no backyard. So this has got a huge backyard. It's got space for his basketball, which was a priority for him. Like literally everything we said this house has. And then he finishes year 12. And we didn't want a place beyond what we need it for because we're traveling when he finishes year 12. The date that we have it from until is at the end of that 3 month period. And then it closes literally the day after his graduation. So it's like, could I have fucking planned that? Absolutely not. And did surrendering to the universe allow for that to happen? Yes. And there's so many stories like that where, you know, I'm in this conundrum and I'm trying to work it out with the mind. And then I let go and surrender, not stupidly, still taking aligned action in each present moment that's being dictated by the wisdom of what the felt sense is. But yeah, it always works out. And in that space, there needs to not be a resistance to pain or an attachment to pleasure. We need to be able to allow both to coexist, because it's people's attachment to pleasure and to getting what they want that creates resistance, that creates so many obstacles. And the irony is that everyone's suffering to avoid suffering. It's like, I'm going to get so in my head and try to work this out and like just vortex and spiral and loop and distract, because I don't want to be without a house, or I don't want to have to deal with this confrontation, or I don't want to leave my job or whatever. But actually what's happening in that process is that they're not being true to themselves, and they're not deeply listening, and they're not feeling where exits are opportunities for new starts and the death and rebirth that's naturally happening. So attachment to pleasure makes pleasure unavailable, because how can you actually open yourself to pleasure when you're resisting pain and controlling life so you don't have to feel pain? Like, control and suppression and distracting, to me, is the opposite to feeling pleasure in your life. So you know, there's people who I think process too much. And it's like, oh, but I'm feeling this, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. And then there's the people who are just witnessing everything, you know, more in that non-dual space. And to me, the sweet spot is when we can feel and witness, when expansion and contraction can coexist. And it's like, life is painful. There's no doubt about it. Your child could die tomorrow. Your partner could meet someone. Like, you could lose your job. We don't know what the fuck is going to happen. We could end up in an accident, like whatever. Life is painful, and painful things can happen. Life is also extraordinary and amazing, and there's peaks and valleys. So what happens when we just flow with that and own that and chill? It's like, all right, this sucks. I'm going to just let it suck and feel a bit shit. And then actually when you allow it, it passes really quickly. That's the irony.
It's interesting because expansion and contraction is the pulse, right? Like, it is the heartbeat. The whole universe is expanding and contracting. So to try and not expand or contract is to be against the universe.
Well, I think everyone's trying to expand, but they're wanting to do that without the contraction, right? Which again doesn't make sense, because for something to birth and for anything new to happen in life, we have to get out of our comfort zone. And whenever we get out of our comfort zone, there's an element of contraction in that. It's like saying that a woman can give birth without the contractions that happen in labor, you know, just expand. And I think how many, you know, we have over 50% of people, women, electing for cesareans, which is very telling of where the world is at and where the feminine in all of us is at. And I've had 2 home births, and, you know, the laboring process is so fucking empowering and beautiful. And to think that so many women get robbed of that, and so many people get robbed of the interesting aspect of the human experience, where we do need to die and be reborn. And like, why would anyone just want to live in this headspace of constantly just trying to feel good all the time, and then never feeling good because they can't surrender to this moment?
It's funny, your story and everything you're saying reminds me of a piece of guidance that only came through a couple of weeks ago. My guide said that from a higher point of view, success is using as little energy as possible for something to happen. And I was like, that's a reframe. I was like,
Ease
imagine
and
if we looked
grace.
at success from that point of view, what we would think of the 1% and the powers that be in the world who are extracting and using so much energy to make things happen. And what you're describing to me is this thing of, actually, I'm not going to use my energy to make this happen. I'm going to open up and let the energy of life flow through this change. And essentially Gaia, or maybe I can go as far as to say the orgasmic energy of life itself is going to make manifest.
Well, who even knows, right? Who even knows what's happening? If it's spirit, if it's Gaia, if it's the universe, if it's our own divine spark, if it's because of a sacred contract that we're sharing with someone who needs to meet us, like whatever it is, it's better than trying to control things, right? And also, like, as part of this process, it's not about denying the parts of us that get scared. You know, it's not like I haven't been scared in this time. It's not like I haven't been like in this deep space of, you know, what is the best thing for my son here? What is the best thing for us? And that's brought up different layers where my body remembers me making a choice connected to his father that then wasn't a good choice. And rather than analyzing that, just feeling that fear and going into the body to actually feel what's unconsciously in the way of the river flowing. So it's not just about this idealist love and light, the rivers are flowing, everything is perfect in the unknown. The unknown can still be scary. We can still have fear when we jump off the cliff. Like a lot of people try to be, oh, I don't want to do it because I've still got all this fear. It's like we can have fear and do it anyway. You know, it's this capacity to allow the fear, express and release the fear through the body, express and release the adrenaline, and then actually focus on what we do want. And in that process of expansion and having a felt sense of what we do want, matching our energetic frequency to what it is that we want, and then feeling what comes up in that, because sometimes there's contraction. Well, all the time for me when I'm entering into a new zone, it's like at every point of my life where there's been a big expansion, there's been fears connected to that would otherwise remain unconscious if not for me tuning into, okay, how would I feel if I had that thing that I think that I want, but actually my body's shit scared to have because of reasons that I would never know unless I just stayed with the felt sense.
I think that's where a lot of people have the art of manifesting wrong. It's because they think they can manifest what they want, but they don't understand they manifest what they are, and you can't fake the frequency. So how do you get to that frequency? And you have to do the work on yourself. You have to face that darkness and learn and grow. You have to have genuine feelings of happiness, of gratitude and love. And a lot of it is perspective, because someone can have all the things that you think you want, but deep down they're probably depressed because they're actually not fulfilled. So having all those materialistic things don't necessarily bring happiness. So what do you want? We just want to be happy. We just want things that make us feel happy. And I've found through all of my years of manifesting, and it's only recently where I've always been a really good manifester, but it's always gone up and down, up and down. And at the moment, I really have control of it. And all it is, I don't even think about what I want. I just think about how I'm feeling. And if I'm feeling good, everything works out every single time. And sometimes it actually scares me a bit. And I think there's like a blockage. Sometimes money's flowing too well and there's too many things happening. And I'm just like, holy shit, like this is actually a bit like it's overwhelming at times. And it's just because I've done work to get myself to feeling good. And even though I've gone through ups and downs and I've lost a lot of money and I've lost my family and all these things, I'm still happy. And it's just perspective. And if you do that work on yourself and you're at a high vibration and you are grateful for all the little things, the universe will keep throwing those things at you, because we are a magnet and the universe is a mirror. But people think if they just have this idea in their head of what they want, that they're going to get it. But it's a feeling and you can't fake that.
I want to ask the role of Tantra in this, because it's interesting. Ekbalu just went into about manifesting, because one of the things I've noticed moving through, I've been in spirituality my whole adult life, really. And there is definitely the people that are dedicated to Tantra and not just teaching or playing in the field of Tantra, in the discipline of Tantra, are
Mm-hmm.
better at manifesting than the people that are just doing other types of spirituality.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't, even the word manifesting, I don't really resonate with anymore. And like you were saying, it's about the felt sense, and whatever frequency we're holding, the universe is going to respond, right? So
Mm.
it's not about manifesting something in the future. It's about how would I feel if this was my reality? So if I'm wanting to manifest money, for example, it's like, well, am I wanting money, or is it the feeling that I'll have when money is here that I want?
Mm.
And what am I focusing on? And it's like, okay, how would I feel if I was a millionaire? How would I feel, depending on what you're manifesting? How would I feel if I earn six figures this month or this year? Whatever is within your nervous system capacity to actually feel and believe and hold. So yeah, it's people win the lotto and then lose it all because they don't actually have capacity to hold it, and it's not in their comfort zone to actually have that much freedom of choice and to not stress about money. And their body is remembering a certain way of being that they're unconsciously wanting to return to. So to actually manifest, if you want to call it manifestation, there needs to be a capacity to no longer identify with that person, with the person that you've been in that particular way of whatever's opposite to what you're manifesting. So, if you're creating money from a place of ease and wanting to be in ease and have a lot of money, but your body remembers that making money is stressful, then every time you are putting any energy into a launch or anything that's going to generate income, if your body is going to respond in the way it's always responded, and then you notice, and then it's like, okay, here I go. I'm going into stress as soon as numbers are in my field of energy, and not shaming that, but just feeling that stuck energy from all the stress that's accumulated. I'm feeling what's coming up and allowing that to move through the body, and then saying, like, that's not who I am anymore. Who I am now is someone who makes money with ease. So you start resonating at that. Or, you go to buy something and the body remembers scarcity and that you haven't had money. And it's like, okay, can I spend this money without stress? My body's remembering that. That's not who I am anymore. Who I am now is someone who's abundant and not being stupid. And if you've got like $2,000 in your bank and you've got rent due next month, blowing it on 2 nights in a hotel, obviously,
I want to
you
ask, you
need.
keep mentioning not being stupid. Why? Why do you keep referring to stupidity?
Because I think people use spiritual principles to back their stupidity. Like, to me, it's not rocket science, right? You can be bringing your future self into in the moment resonance with your frequency by having the felt sense of that future self, right? But what I've seen before is, people spending way beyond their means and going, but I'm acting as if I'm a millionaire because that's what the books say.
Fake it till you
It's
make
not
it.
about that. It's not about that. It's the felt sense of how would I feel if I was a millionaire, starting to anchor in that freedom, starting to anchor in that sense of luxury, starting to expose yourself to that with the discernment of, and this is how much money I have in my account, and this is the bills I have to pay. So it's really having the union of masculine discernment and feminine creative power, having the balance of masculine neutrality and expansion. So that's what I mean. I mean, don't lose the masculine capacity to actually see the truth, to be discerning, and to have a look at the overall picture of what's happening here.
Because otherwise you've just swung into the shadow of the feminine in response to the shadow of the feminine is just to reject the masculine. And just be like, fuck you, I'm going to throw all my energy out. Like, that isn't actually how. And in fact, if you spend any time with really rich people, they do not. They are careful with their money. They value their money. They don't just spend it all. Like, that is one thing that is different between rich people and,
Exactly.
They don't spend it all. So you're not.
And then that can swing into the unhealthy, like always saving, always buying investments, and not having cash flow to actually enjoy life. So I think it's a balance. Part of my journey with money has definitely been spending a lot of it and just feeling what that's like, and staying in Airbnbs that are over 1,000 a night and getting those frequencies and having the felt sense, right? But I had enough money that spending that meant that I could still pay for everything else I needed to pay for. So I think it's a balance. And I think a lot of rich people who hold on to their money, they may as well not even have money. They're just like, what are they doing? Saving it for a rainy day, or like when they die and their kids can buy houses. So
Exactly, yeah.
I see people without money having way better time than people with money.
True to be. I wonder if this. I feel like because we have lost the temple initiations into sexuality and into the male and the female and into Tantra, that most people, because they haven't been initiated into adulthood, which is essentially how you use your energy, are acting like teenagers, including our politicians, including what we've just described as like not really knowing how to handle the energy. Either you're holding on to it too tightly, or you're spending it, or and I it's interesting to me because when we started this podcast, it was with the intention to ask, how do we come back into ceremony with the earth? And I've always followed my instinct on who to speak to, and Tantra has been a big theme in this ongoing conversation. It seems to be something that the mother wants as a big way part of this conversation about how we get back into relationship with the earth, and how we reharmonize from the state that we are in. And I think it's because humans, we have to stop behaving like teenagers. And I think Tantra and the practices of Tantra are the initiations of how we become adult. I wonder if you have anything to say on that.
I don't know if it's about teenager or not teenager. I mean, I have a teenager. And also when Sadell, my daughter, was a teenager, she was homeschooled. She was totally connected to the earth and to animals, and probably more of an adult than the adults that I know. So I don't know if it's about a timeline. But I think what it is about is actually attuning to what we have available to us in life, whether we're talking about money, relationships, sexuality, like what is actually available to us if we're living. And the reason why Tantra is so connected to the earth and the elements is because Tantra is life, right? So we're actually in the experience, in the direct experience of moment to moment openness. And naturally that leads to, there's not a day that my partner and I aren't at the ocean or in the forest or both. Because naturally, when you're in the moment and you're actually enjoying life and receiving its beauty, you're going to be connected to the elements. And, you know, when we talk about money, if I look back on my happiest moments in life, it's not, I mean, I've had some fucking epic times in, you know, amazing spots in the world. And it's helped having a luxurious place to stay, you know, with a jacuzzi in the middle of the jungle. But actually, what lights up my soul and what lights up the soul of those people that I witness is love, is like swimming in a river on a boiling hot day and, you know, parking up and, having lunch while you're sitting on the earth and exploring and not knowing the next spot that you're going to go to and having new experiences. So I feel like money gives you more freedom to experience life more fully in a lot of ways. And I think you can live life fully and happily without a lot of money. But I don't think if you have money, you're necessarily going to be enjoying your life. So the main focus needs to be enjoying life. And actually, a lot of people, once they get rich or, you know, reach their goals so they can retire, they don't even know how to enjoy life because they've spent the whole of their life making a living instead of actually living. And when we're actually living, we're connected. We're connected to the elements. We're connected to life force. We're connected to feeling deeply. And we can say all of this, but at the end of the day, anyone who's listening, what you need to start anchoring in is a center point of existence that's not in your head. A center point of existence that is in the body, that you're breathing into the body and you're trusting that. And it's not easy at first. You know, it's a beautiful, difficult journey of coming home to the body and feeling safe to trust what's happening and to trust what your feelings are telling you, because often it's not going to please the people around you, or it's, you know, it's going to be the road less traveled, because by virtue of most people living in their heads, that means the ones who aren't and they're trusting the deeper calling of their soul and their spirit and their heart, they're in the minority.
Yeah. Just with the frequency of money as well. I mean, you were touching on people always being in the head. And as a society, it's known so many people just have anxiety now. And it's because if you're always thinking about the future and you're always thinking about the present, you're literally in a state of anxiety because you can't really control either. And so it becomes this feedback loop. And just on the thing with money as well, you know, money is such a powerful energy because people really suffer from the lack of, and they're always wanting more. And it's this polarizing energy. And what some people do to sacrifice to get that money, it always isn't from the greatest intention as well. And as someone who had a lot of money, I can say that you get a certain amount where you can actually lose your drive and your motivation. And it's actually not a good place to be because you think, well, I've got money. Like, I don't have to do certain things to motivate myself, to drive my passion, to still work, to get out of bed, to do something really important every day. But when you lose that money and you're struggling for money, you have to hustle and you really think, what am I going to do here? And the things you do in that state of lack of, it really is amazing. And that is when you lift as a person. So, you know, for all the people out there that just think they need more and more money, there's also a beauty to having not much as well, because it really makes you stop and pivot. And they're the moments that make you as a person.
And it's, again, trusting life that this is happening for a reason. Yeah, and I feel like the wanting more that you're referring to is with money, is with relationship, is with sex, like just this dissatisfaction and everyone trying so hard to get somewhere else, where it's like not actually giving yourself the opportunity to feel the advantages and disadvantages of a situation and be relatively neutral about what you decide, but that's not charged with all of this unconscious rubbish. It's like, okay, you know, you're having a relationship, here's this way, you're this way, and there's going to be advantages and disadvantages to whatever's happening with money, with relationship, with anything. And often the advantage of a situation is to push you into something else, right? It's like, okay, this isn't working. I can focus on that and make someone wrong or try to get them to save me. Or I can go, okay, maybe this isn't where I'm meant to be. And then what's the opportunity? Or maybe there's a door closing here, and that's for a reason, because another door wants to open. So maybe I'm going through a period of not having any money, but actually that's going to bring the inspiration for this pivot. Or, maybe I'm not fulfilled in this relationship because there's not a resonance of values, and it's nobody's fault. And this is giving me an opportunity to find a relationship that is, or to just chill out with myself for a while, whatever. So there's this deep trust.
For sure. And I've found sometimes it can take years for that domino effect for it to make sense and think, oh my God, if that thing didn't happen 6 years ago, and this wouldn't have happened and that wouldn't have happened and I wouldn't be here now and I wouldn't change any of it. So sometimes that process of trusting can take a long time. And I live by the philosophy, whether you make a good choice or a bad choice, it's the right choice. Because as long as those doors are open, you have to go through it and you have to find out. And I've made some shocking decisions, but what I've learned from that, it's made me the person I am. I wouldn't change that for anything. So it's like, it builds character and it opens more opportunities. And ultimately, it's why we came here. If everything's perfect for us our whole life, at what point are we actually learning and growing? If everything's really coasted and we're not being challenged. And there was a really good analogy, I think Alan Watts said it, saying that a grain of sand goes in an oyster, and the grain of sand irritates the oyster because it's rough, but it polishes that grain of sand until it becomes a pearl. So those moments of hardship and roughness, harness correctly, and if you embrace it, it can become a pearl. It can become that shine or the gold at the end of the rainbow.
I feel like it wouldn't be West of What, though, if we didn't say that to be in this place where we get to recognize our choice is a privilege. Because there are people all over the world right now who don't just get to walk out of their reality or make a different choice because of the oppressions and situations that they are living under. And whilst there is always, as Mandela and others have taught us, there is always an inner choice that can be made. The way we talk about manifesting in kind of the modern day awakening scene is absolutely from a place of privilege, and we should use this privilege wisely. Like, it is a privilege, it is something that we are lucky to be able to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you are given a privilege, you should use it well.
Yeah, and on that, it's like when you said about Tantric as being better at manifesting, there's also sex magic, where if you bring intentionality into the lovemaking, which is creative force, which births a human, which can birth anything into existence, really. Having two people who love each other and who are connected to themselves, connected to each other, connected to spirit, having an intention towards something and bringing sexual energy into that is extremely powerful. And yeah, I've experienced that, like, wow, beautiful sex magic rituals, and then the actualization of where the intention was happening really quickly when both people are aligned with that vision.
And we're lucky that we're in cultures that mean that we're not married to somebody that we didn't choose to marry, and that we're able to be in those kind of relationships that mean we can explore sex magic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think this is when travel is very important as well, because I think, especially Western society, we are very privileged, and a lot of people think their issues are just so much bigger than what they are. And then you travel and you go to these third world places and places that you mentioned, or you touched on, Kahreela, and you see some of these kids, for example, these kids playing in a war-torn street almost, from sunrise to sunset, playing with a rock on cars that look like they've been bombed, and they are having the time of their life. And you look at these kids and it's just like, they're just so happy. I can't keep my daughter happy with a toy for more than 2 hours. You know what I mean? Because she wants the next one, the next one. Because you're walking into Kmart and you're seeing all these options, and they go to a friend's place. They have this toy, and no one's really that happy because everyone's comparing themselves with one another. But in those societies, you look at that and you reflect, and it's like some of these people have it so much harder than us, but they seem so happy. You know, they have so much more faith. They turn to God. They put so much more weight on family and community and all those things that we've lost in modern society. So it's all
It's
very
funny
different.
because I feel like the activation of this conversation is happening now, in the sense that what I'm realizing is that, the West has so much, or not even the West, the imperial world has so much. We have so much freedom, and I don't think we know how to hold it.
It's too much freedom.
We don't know how to hold that much energy because we're still operating from ancestral nervous systems, ancestral wounds, ancestral core. That means that when we're given so much, we're like, move on to the next thing. Like, we don't know how to hold it. We don't know
We
how
can't
to sit with
actually
it.
let it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing that happened for me coming into my body and actually being here was initially it was like I had to feel the pain that I didn't want to feel. But then it was also like, oh, wow, when I'm here, this actually feels good. Oh, I'm really happy. I'm really grateful for which I couldn't feel when I wasn't feeling, it's like, oh, this is fucking epic. But usually I'd be in my head thinking of all the problems that might happen in the future or analyzing something or whatever. So it's, I think we do have the capacity to hold freedom. It's just for everyone really actually feeling that freedom and actually
How
being
would
in the
you
body
say,
enough to feel that freedom.
for anybody listening, how would you say people can hold that freedom or feel that freedom?
By actually being in their body and going, wow, this is epic.
And how
Like you're
did
at the
you get
beach,
into
this
your
is
body?
epic.
How did you get?
Well, so many ways, but definitely shifting the focus of attention from the mind to the body and breathing, like breathing deeply. And it was hard. I've got a law degree. I've got certificate 4 in anthroposophy. I'm like certified as a trauma therapist and somatic experiencing. And it's a space that was very unfamiliar to me. I had my head in books a lot and academia. And then when I got cancer, I realized something needed to shift. And the journey into the body is so multifaceted. Sexuality definitely supported that, and a more meditative space of moving with eroticism. And meditative just means actually being connected to sensation rather than the outcome or rather than in my mind. And to put it most simply, being in the body is listening, a deep listening to life, a deep listening to the felt sense, a connection, to sensation and to experience. And there's so many practices with that, and the capacity to say no to things that are just out of obligation.
I'm so glad you brought capacity to say no up, because it's something that I wanted to ask you about. Because, like I said, your Tantra space is the best Tantric space I've been in for groups. And because it felt safe, where many of the spaces I've been in haven't felt safe to me energetically. They felt wired, they haven't felt safe. And one of the things that I've really struggled with as somebody that comes from a more like shadow and trauma background was seeing facilitators make very sweeping statements to very vulnerable people, such as just say no. When I know that there are many, many women and men that don't know how to just say no. Like, even if they are in a tantric space and it's empowered and they are there to learn how to say
Of
no,
course, they're
they
not going to
don't
just
have,
suddenly learn how to say no.
because of abuse, because of working in the sex industry, because of um, not
Well, what
having
it's
any
actually
understanding of.
because of is the body is going into freeze often and not being able to exercise the right to say no.
Yeah.
Because in that moment of wanting to say no, the body is remembering something that's happened where they couldn't, right? So we need to unfreeze those parts of us. So there's so many different aspects to healing, and the difference between trauma therapy and, say, Tantra is that we don't need to dig for it. We don't need to go into our childhood experiences and like, what's this trauma? What's that? But in each moment, as it's arising, our body will show us what's relevant. And so, like, in a moment of freeze, we might be like, ah, and, you know, we're making love and our partner's pulled our hair and it's taken us into a memory of sexual abuse. Now, without Tantra, if that would happen to me, I would freeze and then feel the repercussions of that later. But what Tantra supported me into was to actually notice the freeze and say, just pause if I could. And if I couldn't, actually stay in my body enough to unfreeze the part that needs to be unfrozen before I can say no. So maybe to actually just like cry when that couldn't happen. Or and then eventually to say no where we didn't say no. But often the no comes after the unfreezing of what's stuck in the system. And, you know, that's getting a bit complex. But we need to recognize that we have so much stuck energy in the body that is suppressed and unconsciously co-creating with the universe repetitive patterns. So
And that no is saying no to life. Like that no that you haven't been able to say for very, very good reasons is then stuck in the body saying no to life.
Exactly, because we're armoring then. It's like we can't trust that if something comes in that I don't want, we can't trust ourselves to say no, so we just won't put ourselves in that position. So it's quite multi-layered.
Somebody that knows that they can't say no, or somebody that's been into a tantric space where they were told just to say no and they still did something that they didn't want to do because they don't know how to say no. What
People
would you
pleasers.
say is the most important?
It's different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, someone might not be able to say no because when they did, something bad happened. Someone might not be able to say no simply because there's so much in the body that's been traumatized that literally everything just goes into freeze. Someone might not be able to say no because they're really strong conditioning in people pleasing and caretaking. Like there's different extremes of why someone can't say no. So, you know, I do the group work, but then I also do private work. And where the group work is difficult in terms of what we're talking about is I can support a general, something general around being able to say no. But it's not like in one weekend or 1 week, people are going to be able to do that consistently in their life now. Certain people will be able to if their no has really been honored, if there hasn't been a lot of trauma, if they weren't taught to put a mask on or do things out of obligation. But most people have. Most people have been taught that somebody else's yes is more important than their no. Like if the family is requiring something, if someone's going to get offended if you don't invite them to their wedding, if, you know, there's something happening, like my family's from Melbourne and I'm meant to go and see them a certain amount of times a year to prove that I'm a good niece or, you know, granddaughter or whatever. I just don't buy into that anymore. It's like I'm not going to make somebody else's yes more important than my no. If it's not aligned with me, I trust that choice, even if it brings disappointment, is the right choice. So it's also this rewiring that has to happen for people where they're not trying to save people from feeling disappointed or upset. And, you know, when I really first connected to what brings me joy and where my spirit feels most free, a lot of my actions weren't aligned with that. I was doing so much shit out of obligation and because I thought that I should or that I need to. And that's all fallen away. And actually from that place, I can love people deeper because I'm loving myself and I'm coming from overflow instead of eventual resentment.
And actually, every time you do something that isn't honoring of yourself, you're putting your energy in your shadow, like, or in someone
Yeah.
else's shadow. When you people please, you're putting your sexual energy in their shadow. So you're making
Mhm.
their shadow stronger. You're energizing their shadow.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not like joyful sacrifice doesn't fit in with that. So, you know, sometimes I might not feel like driving an hour to see my daughter to help her with something. But because I love her so much, when I tune in, I'm like, no, I'm even though this may not be perfect for me right now, and I was ready for a rest, she is more important to me. But doing it from a place of choice and not getting there and then being like, what do you need help with? You know, it's
Yeah.
like when people just do things out of obligation and don't feel here with it, you can tell. It's like, why are you even here if you don't want to be here? It's not worth it to me. I'd rather not have you here.
For sure. So, could you tell us about what your specific workshops entail, and where do you hold them? Do you hold them Western Australia, around the world, around Australia?
Around the world, I'm actually leaning back from offering more of the personal transformation side and mainly working with practitioners these days. But like the weekend you attended, which I love, Fundamentals of Tantra, that's like one day is focused on inner union and then the second day is focused on sacred union. And I feel like people get everything the wrong way around sometimes in terms of they're focused on the partner, but the relationship with themselves is so fucked up that that's going to keep getting mirrored. So it needs to start
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, for
You know,
sure.
same with money. It's like, okay, they want money, but how much capacity do they actually have to, first of all, receive it? And then what you commented on, actually hold it. Because what does holding it feel like? And how unfamiliar or familiar is that?
Yeah.
So my workshops entail a lot of release of the past out of the body, a lot of recalibration into the quantum field of possibility and the felt sense of that, a lot of connecting intimately with themselves on day one and with each other on day two, just to feel what it's actually like when we connect to this body, when we connect to our feelings, when we connect to what's here, what happens? And then when we connect to someone else with total presence and without a goal, just like with energy and that meeting. And it's so beautiful watching people blossom and especially when they're seeing how you can actually be connected when there's strong feelings, you know, strong emotions, and when there's sexual intensity in a way that is the animal is there, the animal has full permission, but it's connected to the heart and consciousness. Because what happens is when emotions are heightened and when desire is heightened, often all the focus goes into these lower chakras, into the animalistic impulses of fight or flight and the animalistic impulses of let's fuck and let's come, you know. And there's nothing that there is that natural impulse, especially for a man. He wants to seed. So, but when he's connected to his heart and consciousness, there's a shift. So it's about recalibrating almost the shamanic infrastructure of our beings in these spaces where it gets a lot more real, a lot more authentic, and there's the whole being that's taken into account in everything that we're doing. So it's hard to describe. There's a lot of fun, there's a lot of feeling, there's a lot of new experiences. And I guess from my standpoint, what I desire is a deeper embodiment of love and freedom that people actually go, wow, this is what's possible when we're together and we're authentic and all of us is here and there's no distractions. And those who want to carry that into their lives have avenues to do that within the academy.
And how do you make a space like that safe?
Again, it's different depending on the space, depending on what workshop or retreat it is. I do lots of 7-day retreats as well, mainly by giving people full autonomy and sovereignty as to where their window of tolerance is. Like, you know, I never make anyone do anything that they don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I also don't try to persuade. And I always start with grounding into what's most important, which is the breath, which is allowing some sound and freedom of expression because everyone's like so suppressed. And also trusting the natural impulses of the body, of movement, of connection. You know, naturalness is just not where most people are coming from. They're not doing they're not trusting what's natural. There's like all this force happening, not just in work, but in relationships. It's like, I need you to be this way. How about you just let me be you and you be you? And we lovingly and curiously share what we'd love if it's not happening, but there's not this attachment to it. It's like, you do you, I'll do me. We share openly and honestly and see if it works. But there's all this fucking attachment. You know, I'd rather a relationship than no relationship. I'd rather to get laid or not get laid at all. So I'll tolerate. You know, how about we all start fucking ourselves better and having better relationships with ourselves so we're not settling for shit and then complaining about it.
Yeah.
Fuck yourself better. That is the message that is the medicine for humanity for sure.
And part of that is letting life fuck you, letting life penetrate you, because there's so much beauty. So I can't believe how many people just spend every day from the box of their house to the box of their car to the box of their office, box of their phone, and they're not even getting outside and like exploring nature or going for beautiful walks or, you know, whatever blows your hair back, but get out there and live your life. Just stop focusing on making a living or trying so hard in your relationships and just fucking live and trust what happens from that place. And it's easier said than done. So a lot of the work, again, is simple and profound of just how do we stay in our bodies? And that is, you know, that's a much longer discussion. But if people want to start, it's like, just take away distractions and sit with yourself for 5 minutes and breathe and feel and actually discover who you are. Get curious about your thoughts instead of just following them or resisting them. What are you thinking? What do you think about? And get interested in that. If you're thinking about other people all the time or thinking about the future all the time, at least you can be aware of that and do something about it. But like, come to know yourself. And in the watching of the thoughts that happens, in the going beyond the thoughts and feeling that happens, and in the deep listening that happens. So everything that we need is here if we let that be the teacher. And that's not an easy task when you've been indoctrinated into something else. So trusting your intuition, trusting the pull of where you feel called, whether it's private sessions, workshop spaces, retreats, whatever. There's so much available these days. There's almost too much available these days. And just make sure the person's got some experience and knowledge behind them. And make sure the person is someone you would want to be like. So, you know, sometimes people complain
That's really good advice.
A mentor they've had or someone they've worked with. And I'm like, would you want to be like that person? Oh, fuck no. I'm like, well, why are you learning from it?
Yeah.
You know, it's that you're an idiot.
That is really good advice. Make sure the person is somebody you want to be like. Stellar.
Yeah, because they're gonna teach you through transmission. They're gonna teach you relative to what they know. So
and
if you want an amazing relationship,
like we learn through inspiration. 100%, you will be inspired to be like that person.
Yeah.
I know we're coming towards the end of our time, but the synchronicity of the show always amazes me, because last night I was channeling in a workshop, and the guys were talking about the Gaia portal, which is the chakra that's on the soles of our feet. And they were talking about the fact that when this chakra is developed properly, it's dropped into the earth. And they were saying that in order to receive and full body receive, that chakra needs to drop. And they were saying that one of the things that stops it dropping is that when it drops, we feel sad, because we're feeling like our energy sinking into the earth. And they were like, that is the beginning of receiving. It's the drop. And because we have such a resistance collectively and culturally to sadness, and we're so addicted to the like highs and the cortisol and the going up, that many of us don't actually allow, like, rather than sitting with that drop and sitting with that, actually maybe this doesn't feel good, or this situation doesn't feel good, we do everything we can not to feel it, when actually that feeling is the beginning of opening up to receive whatever is coming next. And I think if I've taken anything from this conversation, it's that we have to be unconditional with our, like, there isn't a better feeling or a worse feeling. Like, you have to be able to sit with what you're feeling now, as opposed to what you think you should be feeling in relationship, in a situation, in any process. That's a really good place to begin.
Yeah, and allow it to unfold whatever mystery is there to be unfolded. You know, and it's not meant to be always rainbows and unicorns. It's also not always meant to be muddy and difficult. It's like just taking it all in and allowing the flow of life to take you where it wants to take you, but also to be part of that flow of life where you're co-creating with the universe.
Let life fuck you, basically. I have one more question for you.
Instead of being head fucked,
be life fucked. I love it. I have one more question for you. Who should we have on this show next?
My partner.
Oh.
He's the ultimate teacher of presence of everyone I've met in the world.
Oh. Will you introduce us?
I will.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I've loved this conversation, and at the time of recording, the solstice is coming, and let life fuck you is going to be my solstice. I'll be like, right, come on, life. You're going to fuck me so hard this sunrise.
Nice, babe. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on the show. Good chatting with you both.
And how do people, if they want to find out about your work, how do they find you?
Embodied Awakening Academy.com. And as a starting point, I have a really good free offering that's not just a free offering for the sake of a free offering. It took me a year, and it was going to be part of this big thing. And then we didn't go ahead with that. So it's Tantra 101. It's an 8-day journey. You can get it through the website. And then I've got like 20 online courses. Lots of resources, sex, love, freedom podcast. So yeah, if you feel a resonance, check it out.
Thank you so much for bringing your resonance and your wisdom and your love onto this show. You're very great.
You're welcome. Thanks for doing this for the planet.
May the land be with you all. If today's episode touched your heart and you want to come into greater relationship with Mother Earth, visit landtantra.com and get involved. Your truth is part of this conversation, and we would love you to reach out on socials and let us know how it landed. And if it really inspired you, we hope you share it with others. Let's add more wow to our world.